This is my tribe, the Drucker Forum, and you have conversations, sessions, debates, presentations, and really what you have is ideas, invisible ideas that float around and cram in and pass from person to person. And it's a very interesting, unusual mix. And those of us that come are devotees. The intent of the Drucker Forum is to step back and see a much bigger picture of what is the role of business and of management in society, and how do we think about that with respect to the future of humanity. So it's a much bigger lens, a bigger perspective, and that forces us to confront the things that businesses do and that management does that are not in support of creating a healthy and sustainable future. And so the conversations, I think, are meant to be deliberately provocative and thoughtful.
These leaders understand their innovation comes from collections of peoples, collaborations of people who have diverse perspectives, diverse expertise.
Peter Drucker remains really one of the preeminent thought leaders in the field of management. I have met so many people who will tell me that his articles on managing themselves, on leadership, have reshaped their careers. If you think about, we all go to work every day, work can be a grind. We should all be fortunate enough to have jobs that we find meaningful and that we enjoy. But I think Peter Drucker really helped put his finger on the human side of management, and that's kind of what people like me and all the rest of us are now trying to do. We're just trying to catch up with him. And so I think one of the things that's special about coming here is the focus, as Drucker would have put it, on that human side of management, on trying to get the best out of people, on expecting the best from yourself. And so even today, there's been thousands of books written, in the mold of Drucker, but there's only one Drucker. And I think that if you read any of his articles today, they really stand the test of time, and they still make a ton of sense.
Many of the things that he said are eternally true. When he said that there is only one valid purpose of a corporation, to create a customer. That is like Einstein, that is like Copernicus, saying something that appeared to be obviously wrong when he said it. But 50 years later, 70 years later, it's become obvious that is how companies should be run. So there are those eternal truths, which was ignored for 50 years, but eventually that is one of the great values, that he has some of those insights which are eternal. There were some things, of course, where the world has changed. Digital economy wasn't in existence at the time, but I think he would be thrilled to see what's happened, that those eternal truths that he enunciated have become the driving force of the digital economy.
Every year, the Drucker Forum has a different theme. One of the recent ones was Performance That Matters. It focused on the many facets of performance and how it can be defined, measured, and appropriately rewarded in a radically changing world of work. In this context, Gary Hamel from the London Business School did not hold back with critical remarks in one of the plenaries.
If you think about business innovation over the last decade or two, we've seen radical business innovation, 10 out of 10. If you think about the difference between using PayPal versus a checkbook, you think about the difference between YouTube and the BBC, and so on. This is 10 out of 10 kind of, change. And I like to ask CEOs, can you imagine a similar radical shift in how your organization is run? In the way how power is accumulated, how decisions are made, what leadership means. Can you imagine anything that would be as radical as the shift from BBC to YouTube? and most of them completely struggle because they can't even get their minds around the fact that we're hostage to a particular set of techniques and technologies that go back 150 years. So I think that's if you talk about performance, I think that's where you have to start. You have to be able to imagine organizations that may be very different. I think in a more prosaic, near-in kind of way, for sure, we have incredibly misaligned incentives at the top of companies. If you look at almost any study, you'll see that there is zero, and the most recent study found a negative correlation between CEO compensation and performance, which completely undermines any argument that CEOs should be making 400 or 500 times what ordinary employees. Last year, Andy Jassy at Amazon made 6,500 times as much as the median income of an Amazon employee. And we thought we'd solve this agency problem by tying compensation to share price. And what we simply did was create a lot of smart CEOs and gave them, we told them go out and manipulate the share price. And the easiest way of doing that is through share buybacks. U.S. companies have bought $3 trillion of their shares over the last 4 years. The next easiest way is you gear up, you add more debt. Debt of U.S. companies has been growing at 9% a year for the last decade, far faster than GDP, far faster than their capital spending. The next way you try to create this illusion of resilience and growth is through killer acquisitions and M&As. Even if they long-term destroy value, they at least create some sense of doing something. By the way, about half of that growing debt has been used for share buybacks. So clearly something is wrong here. And my simple, I hope, rather simple solution would be to start measuring CEOs by changes in enterprise value, not share price, but look at the market value, corrected for changes in GDP growth, changes in the broader stock market, sector-specific changes. So you really only get paid well if you're growing enterprise value faster than your peers, faster than the market overall. And I would pay them on probably a 3-year rolling basis. Would that deter some CEOs from taking the job? Yeah, the mercenaries and the manipulators, but that's maybe okay. So I think there are fundamentally misaligned incentives, and we've seen that play out over the last decade. And it's a question of when investors, institutional investors, and so on, are going to have the courage to really address this as a problem.
So my question to you is really, what can business learn from arts?
I think it's a really interesting question. I remember one of your panelists earlier today talking about the perpetual crisis. I think it might have been Scott, my namesake, talking about the perpetual crisis that organizations and business find themselves in. And I was just thinking, I think the arts and business can help each other, because the arts crisis is the sea in which the arts live and swim. Not only do arts organizations, but artists and performers have to learn to manage crisis. But frankly, crisis is the defining active ingredient that makes performance happen.
A fixed highlight of every Drucker Forum is a special gala dinner. This gala dinner traditionally includes an artistic supporting program and short speeches. Here, for example, by Adi Ignatius, editor-in-chief of the renowned Harvard Business Review.
Who really represents the legacy of Peter Drucker? That is this forum.
The Peter Drucker Challenge is also traditionally part of the Drucker Forum. This is an essay competition that has been taking place since 2010 and is aimed at students, young managers, and young entrepreneurs. The best are invited to Vienna for the Drucker Forum. This way, an ever-new connection between the Drucker Forum and the younger generation is created. The mastermind behind the global Peter Drucker Forum is Richard Straub, who has continuously developed it since its inception in 2009.
From a management perspective, yes, a period of 15 years is of course a period where things are changing, and I believe one of my own observation was that the voices critical to the practice of management, how it was exercised during this period, became louder. So there were more and more concerns about, do we still have the right practices for management? Are we doing the right things? Shouldn't this change? And what would be the changes? So this was the background music, I would say, we heard more and more, and it became even louder with new technologies, since we're living a time where technologies are digital technologies, information technologies are changing at such an unbelievable pace.
Even if Peter Drucker as a person and his books have never been the focus of the global Peter Drucker forums, his fundamental ideas and his comprehensive understanding of management have always been the central inspiration.
Because Peter Drucker, and this cannot be overemphasized enough, Peter Drucker saw management as a role in society, relevant for all organizations and institutions, not only for business. Business management is one part of management, but public sector management, the way how you manage hospitals, the way how you manage in the cultural sector, this is all management. It is directed to achieve what this institution should achieve and to achieve the right performance that is required.
In 2022, Richard Straub and his team also began to expand their activities beyond the mere organization of the global Peter Drucker Forum and founded the Vienna Center for Management Innovation, which is based here above the rooftops of Vienna.
The Vienna Center for Management Innovation has the ambition to be a think tank type of organization, which has a horizon that spans beyond single years. A conference is typically focusing on a year. Here is a topic for the conference, and now we're working towards it. The Vienna Center has also other type of initiatives, like what we call topic leadership circles, groups of interest who are focusing on a specific challenge for management and working on it for a period of 18 months or 2 years. So research type projects, for example.
So what exactly is this next management?
Management, as it evolved in the last century, has been an extremely powerful social innovation. You can call it a social innovation. People, as it's used, call it a social technology. But now this old management has run its course. We are now at the point to say, what is the new type of management and why is it so important? It is so important because management is a key ingredient for making society work. If you don't have strong management in your institutions in society, you will fail in many ways. And we see it today. Institutions are broken. So you need to change that. It's on the one hand a huge challenge, but it's a huge opportunity, because improving institutions with a more adapted form of management and leadership, because leadership is becoming equally more and more important as people need to think for themselves and find the direction they have to go. So in this sense, this presents an opportunity to indeed make society better, because if we succeed to have new and better ways of managing, we will have a better society.